So, hi, it's Sandy, and today I am going to try a little loose watercolor and try to paint these grapes. Now, this is I just put in, Googled grapes, and I got this photograph, and I love the colors in it. It says images may be subject to copyright. I have no intention of selling this or anything. I just want to do a practice today. So, today I'm using my Schminky watercolor palette that I bought. It's the botanical set, and I'm going to try it out, and I'm going to use the palette part of it instead of my ceramic palette, but I've put out all the colors. And then when I first bought it, rather when I first opened it, because I held on to it for months before I finally was brave enough to open it and use it, I made myself a mixing chart. So I'm going to reference this today and see about getting some of the colors in it, because this May green is really nice, and it'll be great for the green grapes, the May green mixed with the lemon yellow. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. This is all just me practicing looser watercolors, because that is not my strong suit, and I really want to get better at it. So the first thing I will do is I have my mister bottle, and I am going to mist my palette just to get it kind of wet and a little bit. I'm not going to mist the paper because I don't, even though this is loose, I don't want all these grapes running into each other. So I'm going to begin with I'm using a number 8 Grumbacher round, and actually, let's clean this out and put a little lemon yellow in this one. I want some lemon yellow because I'm going to put that for the basis of all the green. And I'll get that in there, a little more water. I definitely want Indian yellow, so clean this out and get some Indian, and get that there, because the Indian yellow in this mixes beautifully with everything. And let's see, I'm going to need some more greens and purples, and I don't know where I'm going with that yet, so I think I'll get back to that. Let me start with anything green for now. So I'm going to put my base of lemon yellow down. I want a few here. There's a lot of water. That's definitely too much water. I'm going to have a green over here, over here. I'm just going to roughly follow this. And then this bunch I moved up, took a little artistic license because I didn't have big enough space. I didn't plan it right. So got a little green going here, and a little green there, a little green down in here. I want this yellow to show up a little bit, and maybe a little bit in there. So, okay, I'm back to my lemon yellow, which I tainted with the green, but that's okay because I'm really going for leaves, so I don't think it matters all that much. And we'll get some of this out there for the leaves. Now, I can already tell that I think I have small grapes on here, so I think I thought I wanted a smaller brush, but I can see it's not really being as flowy as I want, as loose as I want it to be with this size of a brush for the leaves. But I don't really feel like switching brushes. I just want to try to do the whole thing with the number 8. So maybe a little more water, a little more yellow, and we'll get that in there. So I want some of the highlights to show. I don't know if I'm going to do a background or just really work on this. So I'm using the lemon yellow with a little bit of green for this branch. You get that branch in there pretty early, or the vine I should say, because it's a grape. And maybe another couple of greens, just one there. And as you can see, I'm making this up as I go, because I'm trying to not always paint so realistically. That is definitely something I do. I'm just better at it because I used to be an acrylic painter, and acrylics are nice because you can paint exactly what you want, exactly what you see. But there's so much about, that is some heavy-duty May green. So I'm taking that, and I'm going to take some of that out. Maybe use it, take it from here, lift it out a little bit, sort of lift it out. It's not technically lifting it out, but I'm going to take a little away, and I need one more color. I don't want to use too many colors there, but I got to get some a little bit more green. Now this green, I almost hesitate to use it. This perylene green, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, is very dark, and I just don't think that that's what I want, but I'll put a couple in a couple of places, very little, a couple little strokes. I'm not sure I want anything this dark in there, but I'll give a little bit of whatever. Trying to be flowy, trying to be loose, and not have to paint exactly what I see, which again is how I always end up. I start out like this, and then I start adding detail, and next thing I know, I'm trying to capture exactly what I see, and I struggle with that with watercolor. Okay, so I got a couple of little dark areas on these. A little dark there. I want to darken these up a little bit, and that actually isn't working as poorly as I thought. So this pyrolene's a little, it's okay, it's all right. I'm gonna take it. I will take it and kind of run with it, and I don't know. It's okay. So now I'm gonna take a little of it away from here. So I'm wetting my brush. I'm cleaning my brush. I'm gonna get some. I always mix my dirty and clean water. That's another big problem I have. But I'm going to remove, take or lift, while it's still wet, lift out a little of that dark green and maybe put a little bit more yellow in because I really didn't want it that dark. Okay. I would say I'm not totally paying attention to light and shadows and everything. I just want to get this kind of loose and done. All right. Now I'm going to let that dry for a little bit, and maybe take a little Indian yellow in here and work on this this vine, give the vine more brown, and get that working up here. Try to get that a little bit more, and then so what I'm trying to do for the loose is take some of that vine color and let it run into the grapes, run into the leaves. I forget where I put this, so let's just put that there. Who cares? Not important. I want to get that in, and then I want to get some of it into the leaf so that the color goes in. Okay, get a little bit there, and I want to get a little bit more brown. So I'm going to try the Indian yellow with the pyroline, even though that gets it pretty green pretty fast, but I don't want to get too many colors in this. I want to stick with just a few, so I'll just have to accept it for the way it is. All right, a little bit more there. Get a little Indian yellow. Ooh, that's pretty. I used it right straight out of the palette, and I'm not sure that that was the best way to go, but what's done is done. Put a little there. Let's spread that out a little bit, and that's fine. Okay, so moving on, I want to do my purples, and I want to start with, I think, dare I start with, I'll start with the quinacridone red light, and I'll get some of that in because that's actually pretty-ish kind of pink. I'm going to do a ruby red deep. Clean this off. So I'm supposed to clean in my left and take pure out of the white, out of the right. Never do it. I just never do it. It's just not how my brain works. So I'm always mixing them, and halfway through I'm always cleaning my water because I get it both sides too muddy. However, this little container comes from a Pelican set, which I'll review eventually, and it hooks up like this, and I get the two, the dirty and the clean. But I think part of my problem is it's not clear, and so I can't see, and I'm really not that interested in it while I'm working. Okay, so clean this, and I'm going to start with my pinks and just get some let me just start on this one up here because this one's so wet. I don't really want to run into the greens if I can help it. So get a little of the quinacridone red light. It's a little more tomatoey red than I want, but I'll start there. Okay, and I'm going to put some of my grapes in, and I'm actually doing this one, but I keep looking at that one. So yeah, there are ways to prevent that, none of which I am using today. Like if I print this out and crop it, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so I got a couple of spheres in here. I'm going to leave some room for highlights. This isn't going to be realistic, so it's going to be just what I decide I want here. And then I'm going to start adding some of the, ooh, that is strong. Let me water that down a little bit because I did not mean for it to be quite so strong. So, ooh, that's beautiful though. That's the ruby red deep, and I'm going to add this in a few areas. And now, where do I want the red? I want the red up towards the top and towards the branch because that is where the light is. And maybe down at the bottom, I have one or two down at the bottom. I'm going to just quickly try to make some spheres here. I'm leaving white space for highlights. And make sure I get some of the shape of the cluster of grapes, because that too is an area that I want to keep an eye on all the time because it can get out of control. Okay, once I get some of that in, I'm going to start putting in some of my purple. So I'm using the Brilliant Red Violet, and oops, well, I'm going to put some spots on there anyway, so that won't matter, but I kind of like to put the spots where I want them, so I'm going to quickly lift that up. I did not lift that. Do not put the brush in your mouth like I do. All right, I'm going to put some water there. Let's try clean water, Sandy. Okay. And I'm going to try to lift those colors so that they do not interfere with the spattering I'm going to do later. All right. So my cat is down below. I don't know if you can see that. All right, let's get some of this Brilliant Red Violet in, and I'm going to start getting that into the grapes. So wherever I decide I want more purple, I mean, they're purple grapes, they're not red grapes, I'm going to put that in down towards the bottom of these. And again, I'm just sort of trying to be loose here. So here's something I ran into. I really like the shape of that grape, but I want it to flow and be loose, so I went over it. All right, a little bit more of this color. Get some in the background there. And then what you want to do is make sure that the color that you're using touches both, so it's a little in one grape, a little in the other. I'm not going to have a whole lot of variety in there. Okay. And then I have this Brilliant Blue Violet, and I have no space for it, so I'm just going to put it off here. That is very dark, but I want some in the dark in the back, so it's a little too dark, I need more water. All right, I have too much water on my brush. I'm rolling it around and taking out some water, but I'm not doing the tip too much because I really like the color in the tip. And so then take a little more because I watered it down too much, a little bit more pure pigment. Again, it's so dark. But these are purple grapes, not red grapes, so I'm going for it. I'm putting them towards the bottom so as to keep the lighter color towards the top, so to show like light and let's see, get a little in there, and a little in there, and get some in there. I'm trying to do a little bit on the background there, and that's it. Maybe just a little bit more of the color, the blue, the purple. Okay, I'm gonna let that alone. I'm going to try to do the other one similar fashion. I kind of want to do different. I might just add a little bit more of the red to that, even though it's coming out purple. It's a little bit on the redder side, so it'll help me get a little bit more there. And I want to A little less space there, and a little more. Okay. All right. Ooh, I don't want to lose the grapes, and I'm already starting to lose the grapes, so I'll try to be a little different on this one. Okay, starting with the quinacridone red light, I'll just put, that's this one, so I know I need red up towards the top. And I'll have one back there, a little in there, got a little in there, and just a basic cluster background. So on this one, I'm just going to use the quinacridone red light in the background. Okay. And I'm going to run into the colors a little bit, gently, gently. Okay, now I want to start to define some grapes. So I'll go to the ruby red deep, and I got one there, got one there, some's got one there, here. I want this up here at the top, and there, and down in there, and everything's wet enough so it's doing a it's running, it's giving me a bloom, but I don't care because it's supposed to be loose, so it's okay. Whoa, as usual, I went right for pigment, and I have to stop and make sure it's not too vibrant, or it'll totally take over the color. All right, so we got all there. Trying to get this purple in there and get that red to be. And I got a little just pure purple down here, it's a little darker. Okay, I'll take a tiny, tiny bit of the blue. And maybe try to define some shapes. I think that I might need to let this dry before I get my shapes in there, but being loose, I don't really want to come back to this. I want to try to finish it in the one fell swoop, so to speak, because as usual, once I start putting details in, I don't know whether to keep putting details in or to stop, but I do want to make sure that I get, see, I need this to get to be an actual grape, maybe that one, so I put a little there, and there, got that, maybe a little here, and this one, I took a different approach, I guess, because it looks very different from the last one. I'm going to put a little bit of blue in there, not too much though. Let me tame this blue down. I would like a little bit more in here. So now this isn't super wet, so I might have, there we go, running. I'm not sure I wanted that, but I'm getting it, so oh well. I think you get the idea though that these are grapes, and that's the idea behind the loose watercolor, is maybe let the eye fill in the blanks for you, and so you're not drawing exactly what you see and painting exactly what you see. And I love realism. I love it when I can do a painting and it looks like a photograph. It's just one of those things I really love. However, it's not all that you can do with watercolor, and so I want to get better at this too. All right, while I'm doing this, I'm going to cause a little bit of color in the stem just to get the stem to stand out. So I'm really just using the purplish blues that I was using on the grapes, and I'm carrying that up into the stem. Stem's still a little wet in areas, which is fine and nice actually, because it's giving me some nice color runs, which I like sometimes. But yeah, let me just take this up a little bit, and I don't know, the photograph has the shadow down at the bottom of the branch, and maybe a little on this little knot here, but I don't see, I start getting into the realism, and I'm like, oh, I need it to look exactly like the photograph. It's my own worst enemy. Okay, I'm gonna quit, except for I'm gonna do a little bit of spattering, which will spatter right on my iPad, so I shall move that, and I'm gonna take some of the colors I had, for instance, the beautiful brilliant red violet fairly wet, kind of a wet brush, not too wet. And I'm just going to spatter, maybe, assuming I get some color on there. Let's try again, a little bit of water. But I don't want too much because I don't want it big puddles of water. So, and I'm just going to maybe lightly spatter around the grape part. And some gets on the leaves, but that's okay. And then I want a little of the blue, the darker. Again, I'm going to roll it on here so I don't have too much water because I definitely made that very wet. And I want that a little bluer. So I'm going to go back for a little bit more pigment right out. And I'm going to put some spots. I'm getting it all over the leaves, but that's okay. What happens if I blot a little of that off? I'm going to take a little off so that the leaves aren't purple because I don't really want the leaves to be purple. Now what I'm going to do is get a different brush. So I'm just going to get, let's say, flat brush. Small flat brush. This is Winsor & Newton 1/2. I don't know. I got this forever ago. I don't even remember. Even before I started watercolor. And I'm going to get some more of the purple. And I'm going to mix it a little with the ruby red. And I don't know what I'm getting here, but I don't care because as long as the color is the same as what I've used in my painting. And get a little more. And I want to vary the size of the... I'm going to need a little more water. I want to vary the size of the spots. I don't want it all the same. So this will give me a little bit larger. And I'm totally crazy about that color. So I think I'll go in and get a little bit more pure, or close to pure, brilliant blue violet. A little bit of that. And the last thing I'm going to do is just go in with a little bit of the greens around the leaves. So that, okay, yeah. Clean with the left, and then get the clean water with the right. I don't know why that's so hard for me. Just is. Okay, so I'm going to get a little of the green and grab a little of the pyroline green, which I love. It's the coolest color. Well, maybe not the coolest, but it works. And maybe a tiny bit of lemon yellow. And then over here on the leaves and above the leaves, I get a little bit of the spots. And maybe a little down by the grapes too. And that, my friends, is my attempt at can't tell because I'm going to have to zoom in on this video anyway. You wouldn't believe how I'm trying to film this. But that is an attempt at some loose watercolor for me. Well, thanks for watching, and hit thumbs up if you like this video. And eventually I'm going to ask you to subscribe, but I don't have a lot of content, so I'm working on it.